The wedding hall smelled of fresh flowers and expensive perfume. The kind chosen to impress guests rather than comfort hearts. White lilies lined the aisle, perfectly arranged. Untouched, like a promise that hadn't yet been broken. I stood near the stage, adjusting the cuff of my sherwani for the third time in a minute. My mother smiled at me from the front row, eyes shiny with pride. Relatives whispered. Phones discreetly ready to capture the moment my bride would walk in. She was late. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. At first, no one worried. Brides are always late, they said. It's tradition. It's drama. It's nerves. But I knew her. She wasn't careless. She was precise. She planned everything, down to the shade of napkins at the reception. If she was late, something was wrong. I pulled out my phone. No signal. I tried again. Still nothing. The music that was supposed to announce her arrival played softly. Awkwardly, then stopped. A murmur rippled through the hall. I caught the wedding planner's eye. She gave me a tight, rehearsed smile and gestured that everything was fine. It wasn't. I stepped off the stage and moved toward the side corridor leading to the bridal room. My heart began to beat faster, not from excitement, but from a growing, unfamiliar dread. Her phone rang this time. Once. Twice. Then went to voicemail. I reached the bridal room. The door was half open. Inside, her makeup kit lay untouched. Her shoes were still under the chair. Her veil hung neatly where she'd left it. But she wasn't there. A cold wave washed over me. She just stepped out, someone said behind me. One of the bridesmaids. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Where? I asked. She hesitated. Just for a second. But that second told me everything. I don't know. My chest tightened. I walked back into the corridor, scanning faces. Searching for someone, anyone, who looked as lost as I felt. That's when I noticed something else. Someone else. My best friend wasn't in the hall. He'd been with me all morning. Joking. Calming my nerves. Telling me I was lucky. Now his chair was empty. I felt a strange pull in my gut, an instinct I wanted to ignore. I checked my phone again. One new message. From an unknown number. I'm sorry. I couldn't do this. That was it. No explanation. No goodbye. Just silence. I stood frozen, the wedding hall buzzing behind me. The aisle still waiting for a bride who would never walk down it. And for the first time that day, I understood something terrible. She hadn't just disappeared. She had chosen to leave. And somehow, my best friend was part of that choice.
The wedding hall emptied slowly, like a body losing blood one vein at a time. Relatives whispered excuses into phones. The band packed up without looking at me. Someone's aunt cried loudly not for me, but for the embarrassment. My mother sat frozen in her seat, staring at the stage as if my bride might still appear if she waited long enough. I didn't wait. I walked out of the hall alone. The sun was setting, staining the sky with the same colors as the flowers inside white fading into red. I stood by the parking lot, phone in my hand, calling the only number that mattered now. My best friend. It rang. Once, twice. Then he answered. Where is she? I asked, skipping every greeting we'd ever shared. Silence. That was the answer before he spoke. She didn't want to hurt you, he said finally. My fingers tightened around the phone. You helped her. I didn't plan this, he said quickly. But when she asked, I couldn't say no. I laughed a sound that didn't belong to me. So you drove her away. On my wedding day, she was crying, he said. She said she felt trapped. That marrying you felt like a mistake she was forcing herself to make. Each word landed like a blow. And you believed her? I asked. I've known her as long as you have, he replied. Longer. That stung more than it should have. Where is she? I repeated. Another pause. At the old highway motel, he said. She just needed time. Time. I ended the call without another word. The drive felt unreal, like I was watching someone else ruin their life from behind a screen. My wedding clothes felt heavy now, ridiculous. A costume for a role that had been canceled without warning. The motel sign flickered when I arrived. One light dead. The place looked temporary, exactly like the decision that brought her there. I saw his car first, parked near the corner. That was when the truth finally stopped pretending. I walked toward it, heart pounding, mind screaming for me to turn back. But my body didn't listen. I found them outside one of the rooms. She stood near the door, arms crossed, eyes red. He was too close. Not touching, but not distant enough. She saw me first. Her face drained of color. You shouldn't be here, she said. I looked at him. You knew he would be. She stepped between us instinctively. That single movement told me everything. I didn't run away with him, she said quickly. It's not like that. I smiled sadly. Then what is it like? She opened her mouth, closed it. Silence again. The same silence from the wedding hall, from the bridal room, from the unanswered calls. My best friend finally spoke. I'll leave. She grabbed his wrist. Not hard, not gently. Don't, she said. That was the moment I stopped being her groom. I took off the ring she'd placed on my finger, just hours earlier, and set it on the hood of his car. Keep it, I said. One of you should. I turned away before either of them could say my name. Behind me, the motel door opened. I didn't look back to see who walked inside. The city felt louder after everything fell apart. Car horns, street vendors, laughter from strangers who didn't know a wedding had ended before it began. I moved through it all like a ghost, still wearing clothes that no longer belonged to me. I didn't go home that night. I drove until the fuel light blinked, then parked near a river and watched the water move without hesitation, something I suddenly envied. By morning, the messages had started. Family, friends, distant relatives who cared. Less about me and more about the story. I turned my phone off. Silence was safer. I returned to my apartment in the afternoon. Her things were still their half-packed boxes, a scarf draped over the chair, her favorite mug on the counter. Evidence of a life that had assumed a future without asking permission. I sat on the floor and laughed once. Short, empty. Days passed in fragments. I canceled the honeymoon. Returned gifts without opening them. Told my office I needed time. No one asked questions. Everyone already knew. Then, on the fourth night, my best friend showed up. He stood at the door like a stranger, hands in his pockets, eyes hollow. I didn't invite him in. She left, he said. I nodded. I know. She said she made a mistake. That almost made me smile. Did she? I asked. He swallowed. She said you were safe. That I was just familiar. I looked at him carefully then. 10 years of friendship reduced to a confession he couldn't carry alone. And you believed her, I said. It wasn't a question. I thought, maybe love isn't always about timing, he replied. No, I said quietly. It's about choice. He didn't argue. He couldn't. I lost both of you, he said. I stepped aside, finally letting him see inside the apartment. The absence was louder than any argument. You lost yourself first, I replied. He left without another word. That night, my phone buzzed again. Her name. I stared at it until the screen dimmed, then lit again. Message after message followed. I didn't open any. The next morning, I went to the hall where we were supposed to say our vows. The decorations were gone. Only faint tape marks on the floor remained, like outlines of a crime scene. I stood where I would have waited for her, and finally understood something I hadn't before. She didn't leave me at the altar. She left long before that. The altar was just the moment I noticed. I walked out with nothing in my hands but something solid in my chest. Not hope, not anger. Clarity. And clarity, I learned, is the beginning of freedom.
The city didn't feel loud anymore. That surprised me. After everything that had happened, the vanished bride, the broken friendship, the empty wedding hall, I expected noise to follow me. Everywhere. Questions. Whispers. Regret shouting inside my head. Instead, there was quiet. Not the painful kind. The honest kind. I woke up the next morning on the couch. Sunlight cutting through the curtains like it had never done anything wrong. For the first time in days, my chest didn't feel tight. Heavy, yes, but steady. I made coffee. Strong. Bitter. Exactly how I needed it. While sipping, I noticed something strange. I wasn't checking my phone. No panic. No hope. No fear. Just stillness. That's when the knock came. 3 soft taps. I already knew who it was. I didn't rush. I didn't hesitate either. I opened the door calmly, and there she stood. My bride. Not in white. Not glowing. Not confident. She looked smaller somehow. Her eyes were red, not from crying loudly, but from crying alone. Her hair was tied back carelessly. No makeup. No mask. Just her. I didn't know where else to go, she said quietly. I stepped aside and let her in. We didn't hug. We didn't argue. We didn't even sit close. She stood near the window, hands clasped. Staring outside like the city might give her answers. I didn't run because of him, she said suddenly. I waited. I ran because I was scared, she continued. Scared of choosing wrong. Scared of committing when my past was still breathing. That word hit me, breathing. So you chose to disappear? I asked. She nodded, tears finally escaping. I thought time would pause. I thought I'd come back and everything would still be there. I smiled. Not happily. Not cruelly. That's the problem, I said. Life doesn't pause for people who hesitate. She turned to me then. Really looked at me. You moved on, she whispered. Not a question. Yes, I replied. Not to someone else. To myself. That broke her more than anger ever could. I saw you at the hall yesterday, she said. You didn't look broken. You looked awake. I didn't deny it. I waited for you once, I said. I would have waited forever if you'd asked me to. But you didn't. You chose silence. She took a step closer. Is there still a chance? The old me would have answered immediately. The new me needed truth. I don't know, I said honestly. But I know this, love doesn't start again where it was abandoned. It has to be rebuilt. Slowly. From zero. She nodded, wiping her tears. I'll do anything. I opened the door. Then start by leaving, I said gently. Not forever. Just long enough for me to decide if I want you back or if I've already said goodbye. She paused at the door, heartbreak written across her face. And for the first time, she understood what it meant to be left behind. The city moved on. Cars filled the streets again. Wedding posters were replaced. Conversations shifted to new gossip. To the world. The disappearance of a bride became just another story that faded with time. But for me, time didn't erase, it clarified. Weeks passed after she stood at my door and left again. There were no more messages. No late-night apologies. No explanations waiting to be heard. What remained was silence, but not the kind that hurts. The kind that settles. I stopped asking why. Instead, I asked something harder. Who am I now that I didn't run after her? I returned the wedding suit. Packed away the photos that never made it to frames. I kept one thing, the ring, not as hope, but as a reminder. Not of her. Of myself. The man who once begged for certainty had learned to live without it. One evening, months later, I ran into my best friend. The title still tasted bitter, but the person no longer held power over me. We met accidentally at a cafe neither of us used to visit. He froze when he saw me. I didn't. He looked thinner. Older. Guilt has a way of aging people faster than time. I wanted to explain, he said, voice unsteady. I nodded. I know. That surprised him. You know. Yes, I said calmly. And I forgave you. Not for you. For me. Forgiveness wasn't weakness. It was closure without permission. I stood up, paid for my coffee. And left him sitting with words he no longer needed to say. That was the day I understood something important. Closure doesn't always come from answers. Sometimes it comes from walking away without them. A year later, on the same date that was once meant to be my wedding anniversary, I traveled alone. Different city. Different air. No memories attached. At night, standing on a quiet balcony overlooking unfamiliar lights, I felt something unexpected. Peace. Not happiness. Not excitement. Peace. I realized then that love doesn't end when someone leaves. It ends when you stop abandoning yourself to chase someone who already chose another path. She didn't ruin me. She revealed me. The version of me who survived the worst day of his life and didn't become bitter. Sometimes people leave before the ceremony. Sometimes they leave before the truth. And sometimes they leave so you can finally arrive at yourself. I never saw her again. But I didn't need to. Because the man she left behind was not the man who stood there in the end. He was stronger. Quieter. Whole. And that was the real ending.